Yeah, I remember an incident on Mars during the training. They called it ET interfacing with a raptor that you mentioned. Funny that you mentioned the raptor on Mars. What they did, it was I was in this room and it basically looked almost like a kitchen. Okay, like very normal setting. Like maybe that was a part of it, just to you felt like it was normal. And then they said, okay, an ET is going to walk in, like so it was like a test. And to my surprise, and it looked just like from Jurassic Park, a full-on raptor walks in, except its eyes are very intelligent, like almost like human-looking eyes in terms of like it's looking at you and it's intelligent. It's not a mindless animal like a killing machine. It's smarter than I am, and so it walks up to me and there was a countertop and I instinctively just sat up on the countertop to get a little higher than it because it's about 7 feet tall and I'm 6'3" and it was still a little higher than me. So I sat up on the countertop just so I could be just slightly higher than it. And I was looking at it and I did reach out to my mind and I said, please don't hurt me. And it just said, it's okay. And then that's where the dream or the recall ends. But I think there's more to it. I must have interfaced with it and I can't remember the rest, but it did say to me, like, because I jumped up on the counter and said, please don't hurt me with my mind, and it just said, it's okay. But I mean, as a mammal, when a giant reptile or raptor, this was actually like a raptor, walks in, I mean, oh my God, like, just thinking about it, my heart is racing.
They're raptors. They look just like in Jurassic Park. And I've got an artist trying to work with me, and he simply will not draw the snout. He wants to make them look human, and they don't. They look just like in Jurassic Park.
They do.
They wear very little because clothing chafes their scales, and the males wear a penis sheath, and that just accentuates everything. And they wear basically a weapon belt, and once in a while they'll wear something crosshatch that it's almost like what Klingons wear in Star Trek, but they don't wear the whole uniform. And this guy, he keeps wanting to draw them with clothes, and I go, they don't wear clothes.
They do. They look exactly like Jurassic Park. The only difference is they can use their hands. It's not like they have these little, like, they can actually, they almost have like, well, humanoid type almost arms.
They have humanoid type arms. They have the 3 claws and a thumb. And the claws are like this. I mean, we're talking 6 inches at least. And they used to have spaceflight before the war that took out the atmosphere on Mars. And so they are a spacefaring race in decline. Now, that doesn't mean they're stupid. They just lost their tech. And when the Germans came in on Mars, the Raptors had cities. And the Germans used what was effectively a neutron bomb and nuked them to take over their tube cities. And that's what started the war. And I came right after that.
So have any of you ever, I've heard previously by other people, some of these raptor beings is being described as having feathers. Have any of you ever seen anything like that?
Not on Mars.
No. Not on Mars. Those are terrestrial raptors.
Same, actually. The one on Mars didn't have, it was just like in Jurassic Park. Like, it didn't have any feathers. It was like in the first movie, and like the two are chasing the kids in the kitchen. Like, it looked like exactly like that. Yeah.
Imagine that creature with a 200 IQ and telepathic.
And for me, the reptilians, like when I was little, this was on Earth and underground Earth bases, but reptilians occupied the bases. They wore uniforms, tight-fitting suits, right? They actually wore uniforms, and the ones that didn't have wings, they're the only ones that could wear the uniforms. Because if you have recessive wings, it's hard to wear the clothing. like the really tall white Dracos, they don't wear clothing, but the ones that are like 7 feet, 10 feet tall, and they don't have the wings or the tail, they can wear
Mm-hmm.
the suits. And even if you have a tail, you could have like a hole for the tail in the uniform or the suit. So that was interesting. Like I remember brown reptilians, green, black Drazo, from the childhood memories that I have of being abducted. And from when I was older, like on the ICC basis, I actually, because I'm blonde, right? Pale skin, for some reason, I would always be paired up with reptilian human hybrids who were beautiful. You know, they had reptilian DNA, but they looked almost fully human except for the eyes. You could tell they were reptilian, like bigger. And they had like this iridescent greenish pale skin, like, you know, and human, a little bit of human complexion, but you could tell not human. And hands like reptilian. But they were beautiful. Some of the women had greenish blonde hair. It was, or blue streaks, like iridescent long hair. I was like, I could tell part reptilian, part humanoid. Beautiful, exotic looking male and females. I was like, wow, they have reptilian human hybrids paired up with the human assets. And also Nordics. I was paired up with Nordics quite a bit. What we call Ashtar Command, which it might not be, it's probably called something different in the Nordic faction, but I was paired up with Nordics because I was, you know, pale blonde, so they'd pair me up with the blonde Nordics. Even though there are Nordics that aren't blonde, they have different hair color, they'd pair me up with the blonde ones because I fit in mostly with those types. And so
Well, they tended to keep me with humans, except on Mars, the Valkyrin, my unit, we had a human man captain, and he answered to an Alpha Drac. And that was my interface with the command.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Kevin. Penny touched on this a little bit, but now what they taught you in the Solar Warden as far as spirituality and the way all that stuff works, how do you feel that has affected you now, like your beliefs now?
I think it's solidified my understanding of dimensional ecology. At least I feel like I understand what I'm physically in and also energetically what I'm in. And in my own life now, a part of my healing process was I got into like the superfoods and the cleansing, which really helps raise your frequency naturally. And I do a lot of Qigong and Tai Chi type practices, Kendo, and meditation and all those healthy things. So I'm still, because I know that stuff's real, but they taught the dark side. So to use the Star Wars analogy, I'm tapping into the light side, and the light side is once you address certain things using alchemy, like absorption issues and things like that, once you figure out that like nature has given us everything we need, and it's just the only reason why like a green smoothie, why that's not going to cause you to miraculously ascend right away is because humans, we have a tough time actually absorbing things. Like when you take a vitamin, you absorb like 20% of it. If you could absorb 100% of like a greens plus powder, I mean, man, you're going to be vibrating like with a ton of energy. So once you start taking things like CoQ10 and you do the cleansing and you get the heavy metals out and the bad calcium and all that, you can actually absorb way more from the superfoods, and then you can take it a step further with like doing the monoatomics. Like I drink a ton of colloidal gold, and so you pair that with the energy practices, and you get lots of exercise and sunshine, and next thing you know, you're applying the same thing that they taught you, but on the light side of things, because Mother Nature, all that energy is available. It's just you have to address the toxicity of living in a toxic world, which is by design, as we know, to suppress human frequency, and then address the absorption thing with the at-home alchemy, and next thing you know, you're drawing the same kind of energy that these vampires draw off their victims. You can literally draw that energy from like superfoods. So that would be my answer.
So would you say that it may be easier to vampire it out of another person than to do that? Is that's why they do that way, or?
Yeah, that's 50% of it. I think the other 50% is they like it that way. They enjoy it. I mean, they enjoy being a vampire, and you know what I mean? Like, they enjoy it.
And Ileana, what about you?
Well,
Same question.
Yeah, for me, I found that like I do the monoatomics as well, and that helps me with my autoimmune system, because what the Draco did is reprogram my whole autoimmune system, screwing it up. So basically, I've had to reprogram myself all over again to remove all the nanotech from my system, to cleanse myself from all the bad calcium, the metals, the negative emotions and stuff. And for me, I need to live closer to nature, like the forest and the mountains and water. For me, ocean is very important. I need iodine and sunshine. The more the better, because I function much better. And also my food is very clean and organic. I don't eat GMO food. I don't use products that have fluoride or chloride in it. So I need high octane food, high energy vibrational food and liquids. So I'm on a high vibrational diet, and that's what keeps me healthier. But I do need to have my blood cleaned soon, because I'm even with the monoatomics and the good food, I'm still, that nasty programming of the reptilian stuff, I still need to flush something out, but I need my blood cleaned, basically, my plasma cleaned and my blood immunoglobulins. So that's why I'm doing some testing to be able to have access to that medical process of separating the plasma from the blood and the immunoglobulins, to just flush out the nasty autoimmune antibodies that I currently have in my body that cause toxicity to the brain and the whole body, and get re-energized with clean plasma and clean blood. It sounds all scientific and weird, but it's quite simple. But in order to get access to that treatment, you need specific testing done. For that, it's not easy to order, but I managed to get it because I have some medical memory training from the cybernetic programs on ICC. So I'm like, I can tell my neurologist what exactly I need and why and what for. So I just need to get the blood cleaned. I'm doing it energetically, but it's not enough. I need actual physical flushing of my system, and I think that would help more to absorb the monoatomics, for me at least. And I need organic living. Like, even the housing that I'm living in, it can't be painted with paint that is toxic. It has to be VOC free, volatile chemical free paint. And also building materials have to be more natural and organic. Wood, all of that insulation. It has to be of a certain material that's more organic building. It's more expensive, but it's better for my autoimmune system. I function better when I'm in good living conditions. When I'm in poor living conditions, then I don't do so well. So it's really about environment, about having clean energetics around you. Where you live does matter. Like, Kevin and I will both be flipping properties soon because we need better energetical places to live. It's just, that's what we need for our bodies to function on a higher vibrational level. Physicality does matter where you are.
You guys should come move down with me and Dan, as we're right on smack on the ley line.
Where are you?
Southeastern Virginia.
Is it really
Nice.
hot?
It gets that way. Yeah, it's really cold right now, but yeah, typically it's like walking around in a hot, wet blanket.
Oh no, that's not for me. I need I need a rainforest type of environment, which I have here in the sleepy little ocean town where I am.
It's the negative ions. I think she's actually drawing a lot of energy from the negative ions in that kind of climate. And Don, you can see how it's the same principle of like you're trying to draw energy from something and raise your frequency to a certain point so you're not being fed upon. But I guess the question in terms of the dark side and the light side is just what's your food source or energy source, you know?
Nature
Makes
for
sense.
me. For me, it's nature. I don't eat off of other people's energy. I take my energy from nature. Not too much, not too little, like from the ocean, from the forests, from the ionosphere. And natural iodine comes from the ocean. So that's where I take it from. And just the earth itself, walking with your bare feet in clean soil or touching a tree and just meditating beside a tree. We take our energy from nature. Others, the parasites, take it from other people.
All right,
Well,
so
I live in an oak forest. It's in California, so it's a different kind of oak than you have back east. Yours are tall and straight, and they're really pretty. I saw them in 2016. The ones we have here, they have very strong trunks. The bark is darker, the leaves are darker, the tree grows out. And amazingly, if the roots get wet in the summertime, then they get root rot. They're so acclimatized to our summer dry season. But I live in the Yosemite area, in the Sierras, and the air is dry. We have those negative ions that she talks about. We have winds that change direction depending on the time of the day. I would dearly love to go out in the sun, except that I burn and peel, and I get a lupus rash. My doctor says I don't have lupus. He calls it mixed connective tissue disorder, which means he doesn't know what it is. But it's in that family. It's an autoimmune disorder. It's what we in the group call age regression sickness. And mine showed up in 1981. So I've been dealing with it a long time. The fact that I can still function at all says I'm doing something right. It gets frustrating.
Oh, I can sympathize with you, Penny, because I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis and possibly Hashimoto's encephalitis. And they're like, it's all in your head. All of these symptoms that you're experiencing, you're making them up. They're all in your head. I'm like, no, they're not. There is specific root cause of a biological issue in why something happens to your brain chemistry or to your body. I'm like, this can be proven with science and specific testing. Even for lupus, there's specific testing that they could do to determine which autoimmune disorder you have, but you need to ask for it. If you don't ask for a specific testing, they'll tell you.
It's an anti-nuclear antibody test, and
Yes.
I've been negative on it every time.
Yeah.
And you have to be strongly positive on it here to be eligible for the blood cleansing.
Okay.
So that's not an option for me from the medical. I was actually told I was a hypochondriac from 1990 until 2001, when my test came back that I had been poisoned with arsenic. I figured out who had done it and why. My second husband had a $500,000 life insurance policy on me, and arsenic poisoning looks like lupus, and so there would not have been an autopsy. So he's the one that had motive and opportunity. He got really mad when I divorced him. Tried to run me over with my own car. So life gets real interesting sometimes. I've been on a chelation agent since the diagnosis of arsenic poisoning, and that's made a big difference to my recovery. I am not doing the EDTA because I was in such bad shape when I was diagnosed. I'm using lecithin, which is a vitamin. It's a B vitamin, so if you take too much, it just goes out your pee. And a side effect of it is it prevents strokes. So it's something I think at least older people should take regularly anyway, especially with all the chemtrails and the vaccines and the crap in the water and the crap in the food and crap in the medicine. But my doctor wants to put me on an SSRI. And I bought the bottle to shut him up, and it sits on the edge of the table, and I haven't taken a single one, and I don't intend to.
Very good.
That's where my antibiotics go.
Yeah, my shrink put me on clonazepam and Cipralex, and like I tried it, and the side effects on your digestive tract are hideous. He's like, there's no side effects on this medication. I'm like, didn't you read the script? There is. Like, I have those side effects. I don't think this medication is doing nada for me. I'm like, I've purchased it and I have it and I've taken it, but it's like, it's just nauseating. Meds. Yuck.
He's been my doctor since 1993. And he had me on SSRIs for 20 years of it. And I'm done. I'm waking up, I'm remembering, and I'm not going to let him drug me back into oblivion.
Yeah, my shrink wants to drug me into oblivion too, just to so I don't say I have these weird symptoms. I'm like, I know there's a biological factor why I have the weird autoimmune issues with Hashimoto's. So I'm like, that's why I'm doing the special testing, just to come back to my shrink and say, look, I don't need this med. I need something far more different. I need my blood flushed and cleaned. This is what I need to get better.
What I did was I lost my temper. And I told this doctor, who is older than I am, I said, I don't want to be on them. I don't need them. I'm doing just fine. I'm using Jungian shadow work. I'm doing fine. And he says, but you have been either anxious or depressed the whole time I've known you. And I go, okay, here it is, Doc. I was an MKULTRA. I have alters. I've been working on reintegrating alters. I am going to be either anxious or depressed from your point of view, but as long as I'm not harming others, it's none of your damn business. And he says, well, I really want you to go to mental health. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go to mental health and be put into a loony bin. You know, I mean, it's out there in public knowledge that MKUltra happened. MKUltra was real. And I may not have been in the actual studies they have that label on, but I was actually treated worse. Those who have watched my videos know that what I was in was a cross between Stranger Things and Firestarter.
Yeah, and what shrinks can't explain, they label as it's in your head. You're making it up. It's not the case. For me, the reptilians ruined my autoimmune system. It goes back to a nanotech virus that was implanted, and I've been trying to get rid of it to some success, but I just need a different type of cleanse. So I'm trying to get from the scientific test perspective, here's what it is, and here's what it's not that you told me, because it's the wrong drugs you're putting me on. I don't need the drugs. I need a cleanse, a glorified blood cleanse.
I can't even get the guy to order the DNA test to find out which variant of the MTHFR gene that I have. And that's a major thing on how people are treated.
Yeah.
That has to do with treatment protocols for everything. And I can't even get him to do that. I'm going to be ordering it online and going, Hey, Doc, here's what they sent me. Guess what?
Me too. I'm gonna go to my shrink. Here's the results of the spinal tap and the blood work that I did. Let's talk about something else. What about you,
Yeah.
Kevin? What type of experiences have you had with doctors and shrinks and
Well, I mean, I always hit a
Earth-based
brick wall.
medicine.
Yeah,
Earth,
earth-based medicine. Well, they're just druggists, okay? They're druggists.
yes, they
Let's call
are.
them what they are. So they just mask symptoms and create the what I call the sedated man or woman, and they just want to sedate you. And now, what I will say is like mental illness, obviously does exist, and I have met people that do have mental illness, and what I notice is they're not consistent. You see, like the way that we have our timelines and our recall, and like we list off like, oh, like the acronyms for all the agencies, and like we're very
Yeah.
consistent, okay, and we're citing our sources as we go along. When you meet someone that is actually experiencing psychosis, they're all over the place, and because they are kind of making it up as they go along, because they're tipping over in their own mind, there's no consistency there. So if they had like a YouTube channel, every day their story would change.
yeah?
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So we're just too consistent. So
I, I
knowing
have
that,
I have a theory about some of those people. The ones that are schizophrenic, I think they are actually seeing into the realm of disincarnates.
yeah,
And
I think they're actually experiencing the disincarnates, and that their consciousness can't handle it, and so they're coming out as insane. That's what I really believe about them.
yeah, and I was told by the shrink that I had psychosis issues because I'm very sensitive to smells, even something that normal people can't smell. I'm like a dog. If it doesn't smell, if the clothing doesn't smell right and there's like something wrong on the clothing, I'm like, oh, get that away from me. Like to most people, like the clothing has been laundered, right? It's clean. But if they use some kind of a laundry product that stinks, they think it's normal. I'm like, that stinks. Get it out. Get it away from me. But I'm clean.
Mhm.
No, you're not. You're full of chemicals. Your clothing is chemical. It's like it's a nasty chemical peel. You stink. No, I don't. I'm clean. This is my laundered clothing. And even though my laundry is scent free, my detergent is scent free, but I could still smell a bit of the detergent, even though it's scent free, it still has some scent. I'm like, I launder my clothes 3 times just so there's nothing, no underlying scent. And my doctor's like, you have somatization, you have conversion disorder, it's all in your head. I'm like, no, it's just multiple chemical sensitivity. I'm just a bit more, a lot more sensitized to smell. It's hyper. It's like I'm like a dog. I could pick it up. I'm like a hound.
Well, my internist tried to tell me that, and I said, "Excuse me, I want a referral to an allergist."
Mm-hmm.
And skin testing proved it, verified everything that I had said, and gave me a whole nother list of things I was to avoid. Well, my internist was trying to tell me I had congestive heart failure. When I stopped eating the 12 foods I was allergic to by skin tests, the congestive heart failure went away. I mean, this is the kind of crap that's going on. And they won't go that extra 10 feet to think about a referral to somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got hypothyroidism, I've got Addison's disease, which is my adrenals have stopped working, and now I'm type 2 diabetic, and I go see my, that's my whole metabolism comes out of a prescription bottle. That's why I have to put up with the internist.
Mm-hmm.
And he has not even considered the possibility of sending me to an endocrinologist. But I have the whole triad of metabolic syndrome, and he's not, I'm so frustrated, he hasn't even prescribed a blood sugar monitor. I bought one over the counter.
You know what's interesting about this, Penny and Elena, that when you get back from your SSP term, okay, because time travel is a component of it, and then also the age regression. It's interesting how we all have these hypersensitivities, like food sensitivities, sensitivities to light, sound, temperature, all these sensitivities where, like the average person that has never been off planet, they can literally survive for 60, 70, 80, 90 years, like eating fast food and having, like their TV blaring and like lots of like lights in their house. And like, it doesn't matter. Like they can, they're really resilient. If they've never been off planet and they've never done like a 20 and back or anything like that, or been age regressed, and when you come back, you're just so hypersensitive to everything that you're forced to be healthy, because if you're not healthy, even if you just slip up and you eat McDonald's for a day, I mean, man, you pay for it. It's almost like you have food poisoning immediately, and your energy is just all out of whack. And meanwhile, your best friend can just eat it.
I can't eat fast food. I can't eat most of what's in the grocery store. You know how they talk about you walk around the edges of the store, and that's the healthy stuff. That's where I have to eat. If I try a lot of the produce in the produce section, I can eat it. It'll look perfectly fine, and I'll end up sick. This is probably too much information, but I've had episodes of diarrhea 5 times in the last 20 days. And
could be GMO, like a lot of, and also the pesticides, if you're not buying organic produce, like sprayed with pesticides, genetically modified, that tomato is not, what I mean?
Well, I've been
actually
going
healthy.
to farmers market and hoping. It's frustrating. This is the time of the year where the farmers market is closed. So that's like, And then I have friends who tell me that farmers market is a first world entitlement. And I'm like, at what point does it become survival? I'm in a couple of groups online for people with fibromyalgia, because that's the closest diagnosis to what I have, is fibromyalgia ME. They call it Fibro and Friends because there are about 8 diseases that travel together. And it's identical to age regression sickness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And if you look at it, that complex of diseases is 5% of the first world population. If those people are all SSP people with mind wipes, plus whoever hasn't got sick yet, we're looking at millions of people worldwide that could be remembering.
Yeah, and you can't sleep. The issue is at night it's not that we don't want to sleep, it's just the sleep cycle has been altered because of this, and this symptom. So you're like on a different sleep cycle as well. And you're taken at night, you're taken between 2 and 4 a.m. That's the happy hour to be taken. To the SSP.
I know.
That's when the sightings are at night, when the craft fly over.
I cannot sleep at night at all. I go to sleep around 4 a.m. because my subconscious thinks it's not safe to go to sleep. And when I do go to sleep, I'm abducted as many as 4 times a night for different things. And each of those abductions might last 60 years in a time bubble and loop me right back. And I wake up with my blood sugar all screwed up. I know when I've been taken for something that uses my physical body, because when they bring me back, my blood sugar is like 40 points higher. I know the altar that's used by the CIA, she drinks like a fish because I wake up hungover.
Right.
I don't drink.
Penny, the subconscious thing about being on a reverse sleep cycle, since 2008, when I first got picked up, I've been on a reverse sleep cycle since that day, since November 12th, 2008, since that day, and I was in shock in the field. I can't, like, it's a subconscious thing. I feel, now they can grab you anytime, they can grab you during the day, but I cannot fall asleep until the sun starts coming up. And as soon as it starts getting light out, I get sleepy.
That's a real problem, yes, because you try to get a doctor's appointment in the late afternoon. Doctors don't want to work then. Try to go shopping. Our local transit for handicapped people. They start at 9 in the morning and they stop at 3:30 in the afternoon. You want to go something where you have a 3 o'clock appointment, you've got to get your own way home. The regular transit for people without cars, it starts, I believe, at 8 in the morning and stops around 5 in the afternoon. Yeah. So people that work for a living can't even take the transit to and from work because it doesn't start early enough or end late enough.
Yeah.
They need another full cycle at each end just for working people. But then they wonder why nobody wants to use it. Well, they basically got it where it's for druggies and crazy people.
Exactly. Like
you get on the bus and you're taking your life in your hands.
Yeah, but the nice thing about the SSP was they had these anti-grav trains that would just running 24/7. You'd get on it, you tell it where you want to go.
They have them on Earth.
Yeah, they have them on Earth too in the underground bases.
They have them on Earth because there's a tunnel that goes from Los Angeles up to Washington State, and I live on top of it, and sometimes I can feel it beneath me.
There you go. We have them, but we don't have access to the nice tunnel system with the 24-hour trains or the anti-grav cars that they already have. The Arctic and Antarctica, they use those.
Isn't that what Elon Musk's company is working on? That he got contracts to make high-speed tunnels between cities back east?
The Hyperloop.
Yeah. Isn't that what he's doing actually is maglev trains?
I think so.
Yeah, that's so last century. Maglev trains are just NORAD. NORAD has maglev trains.
Here's one for you. What if he's not actually doing it? He's just going to say he did it and just show everybody what's already there.
Exactly, probably.
That would not surprise me a bit. Just they're like, okay, we have new tech, so we're going to let him take credit for what we already been using for 80 years.
Yeah, and the anti-grav trains, we don't get them. Maglev is not really anti-grav.
That's what they have in Japan, right? Like the high-speed rail in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be building something similar to that on the surface here in California, but it's been bogged down with corruption. So
what else is new?
They haven't even broke down and they're already over budget.
Let me put this forward real quick. Now, it's not hard to see. You take a look around in popular culture. It almost looks like, everyone's being kind of shifted towards like the worship of, death and violence, service to self, get money, all that kind of stuff. Now, do you think this is something being put forward by people in the programs to try and get people to shift towards that system of service to self? And why would they want to do something like that?
My understanding of the way things are run on Earth is that when Operation High Jump, the Americans lost to the Germans in Neuschwabenland, that Neuschwabenland's high command has been running the world since then in a covert manner, that their interface with the Americans has been through the director of the Trilateral Commission. I think what is happening is that they are reaching a point where that they want it to be overt instead of covert. And so they're shifting the culture into something that will accept them. And they're going to mess with our stability to the point that when they show up, it will be as saviors.
For me, I think the money aspect and the 9 to 5 job, and that's all a distraction from full disclosure to keep people busy and, running around in the 9 to 5 rat race, making money to survive. And it's a distraction, it's an excuse not to do full disclosure. If the people are busy with surviving, they don't need to know about ETs, UFOs. They don't need to know about the secret space programs. It's all an illusionary distraction to keep us living in the 19th century, basically.
So
and
you think
it makes it so much easier to kidnap people to turn them into cyborgs.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't know that there are ETs, that they don't know that the space program is real, that they don't know that it's all funded by the sale of cyborgs.
So you think the service to self focus has to do with keeping people away from disclosure?
Yes, I fully think that, because the interplanetary corporate conglomerate, it does not want its Earth corporations to be exposed to the Mars connection, to the Mars contractors and what they're doing in these slave colonies up on Mars and in the bases. Because it's basically a slavery-induced program. We're kidnapped, we're abducted, we're the slaves. And some of us, for me, it looked like a nice job on the ICC because I got all the nice tech, the toys. I got to train people. I got training. It looked all nice and pretty on the surface. But I saw so much torture, so much violence, so much depravity. And that stays with you. The sexuality business, the hanky-pankies that they do up there. And that's a giggle factor. You're welcome to giggle now. So you see that stuff, that's sexual depravity, sexual trafficking. That is now coming out here on Earth, but they want to expose the elites here on Earth and keep the good stuff that they're doing up, continue the nasties up on Mars and the rest of the solar system. So we're going to sacrifice the Earth elites so we can keep doing our hanky-panky up there on Mars, and nobody will ever know that. There's no oversight and never will be. That's what they want to continue doing with Mars.
Well, they intend to keep humans as prey.
Yeah.
We are on Earth. We are just prey. We're the farmed animals that they every so often go through and harvest a bunch. They keep us in warfare so that people can be kidnapped without accountability. If Earth humans understood how many are being kidnapped every year without some sort of a cover to it, I would hope that they would revolt. Although, to be honest, whenever the Pentagon said that UFOs were real, all we got was a yawn. I mean, seriously.
Well, I think
the Pentagon came out and said UFOs are real, ETs are real, and people were like, so what?
I think in that regard, especially for the masses of people, with years and years and years of science fiction conditioning and stories of this and that, it's something I think that people, even the masses, already pretty much know. So I think that's why the big collective yawn on that. I mean, now if somebody would have landed on the White House lawn, something like that, I think you might have seen a little bit of different reaction. But I mean, I could kind of understand, because it really, it's just another blurb on TV, and everybody's watching the X-Files. Everybody's, watching Ancient Aliens and whatnot. So it's, as far as, I haven't come across someone in a while that has said that they don't believe in UFOs or aliens. So, in my normal everyday, day-to-day dealings, I'm not saying they're not out there, but I think for the most part, people have already been conditioned to understand that to be the case.
Yeah, but when you're saying there's a secret space program out there, people are like, no, that doesn't exist. That's not real. That's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's no conditioning for that yet. That's total. That's out there.
Well,
and you guys were talking about the Mars thing and the slave colonies, and I remember earlier last year when that guy went on the Alex Jones show, and he was talking
Yeah.
there. He was
The CIA agent.
he was
Yeah.
talking something there. He was trying to put together some hashtag Trump movement thing or whatever, but that had actually came up. And then Alex Jones right away, you know, doing his job like a good little boy, jumps on it and tries to put it all on NASA. And then NASA comes out the next day and they're like, oh, yeah, we don't have child sex slaves on Mars. What are you talking about? Well, of course NASA doesn't. It's just helping to build a straw man. So when it does come up, instead of conditioning where, oh, UFOs are real, you hear, oh, you got the conditioning of there's no sex slaves on Mars. That's crazy talk.
There
Again,
are slaves on Mars doing all sorts of things
Oh yeah.
that humans on Earth would be just mortified if they knew.
Oh yeah.
But you hit the nail on the head, Don, when you said if it doesn't affect people's lives directly, okay, like they don't witness the craft, or they don't have like a loved one that went missing, okay, and they never got closure as to where this person went. If it doesn't affect your life directly, we live in such an apathetic service to self society that people just want to be entertained. And if it's not entertaining, then they're really not willing to look at it, because until it actually, physically is in front of them, they're honestly just not going to care.